Jonas, beautiful building here.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask you a few questions about your company first.
Sure.
UHA.
Yeah.
It's grown rapidly since its founding in 2011, with projects that you've handled all over the world. Is it a challenge to maintain a consistent design vision across so many global offices?
That's an interesting question. Maybe I should talk a little bit about how we grew so you can kind of see how we work.
Sure.
And the sort of processes we put in place,
of course,
which will go some ways, I think, towards answering your question of how we try to maintain the quality across the various offices. As with all offices, it started with me on a kitchen table. But I come from a background of larger offices. I started my career at Foster's and Partners, where I worked for a few years. Then I went to Chicago and worked for Helmut Jahn, who's a quite famous architect out there. And the projects I worked on were always fairly large projects. High-rise, 50-story towers in New York, buildings, commercial buildings in Washington, D.C. I worked on the McLaren headquarters in London for Foster's, the Monaco Yacht Club. Various larger projects. So I didn't actually have that much experience on smaller projects. And typically in architecture, when you start your architectural office, you start from small and then you build yourself up. So you start smaller, house extensions and private villas, and then slowly you gain the experience and your projects get larger and larger. And that's because a building is a big liability for the people paying for it. So if you're doing a large project, they want to make sure that you have the proper experience to do that. And when you just get started, you obviously don't have a portfolio of delivered work. So you need to go out there and pitch yourself. So I started by strategically looking at which market will give me the opportunity to work on larger projects. And in England, where I had established my firm, there was no chance that I would ever get the chance to do a large project to start with, because the planning process is really difficult, and you need to be able to show that you've done that as part of your own firm, so there are liabilities. So I started looking abroad, and one of the markets that struck me as interesting was India, because it is a market where not many architects, international architects, were active, and I felt that I could bring something as an international architect that wasn't available in the local market at the time. So I started there and started making, started collaborations with local architecture firms and learned how they were working. And their clients were quite keen at the time to get some international flair from London. London is a place that has a little bit of cachet globally for clients. And for them to say that their project was designed by a London-based architect was something at the time that they could use as a USP, as a unique selling point.
So it was easy to get your foot in the door in India?
It wasn't. I wouldn't say it was easy, but I managed to convince a few clients to give me the chance to work on some larger projects in collaboration with local larger firms. And the first project is always the hardest one. And then it sort of, I built from there. Then I got the chance on larger projects there. Then because I had the portfolio of larger project, I could start going to other places. So it sort of organically, I didn't plan on, I'm going to have offices around the world. It's just sort of where the work took me. And after a while, I also found that as an architect working on larger projects, you are incredibly vulnerable to geopolitics and things that happen in the world. And for example, we had extensive projects in Russia as a young firm in 2014. And when there was the invasion of Ukraine, of Crimea, there started being sanctions and we weren't able to work anymore. So suddenly a lot of our work dried up. So we had to look in other markets. We were working with oil-based clients, which suddenly the oil dropped as well. So there's a lot of things that happen in the world. Elections can sometimes happen. In India, where they went, for example, from Congress to BJP, and then a lot of the developers we work with no longer got the funding or the building rights. So there's a lot of times there's things that happen to various countries that will impact the work. And so very early on, after kind of experiencing that the hard way, for example, we also tried Mexico. And when Trump got elected the first time and talked about building the wall, then a lot of investment stopped there. So there's all these kind of geopolitical things that happen that impact on larger projects. It's such a big investment.
Yeah.
So we decided that the safest way was actually to diversify ourselves into different markets so that we wouldn't be so vulnerable. And then came the global pandemic, which
that's right.
which nobody could plan on. Yeah. But we basically went where the projects were and started traveling around, seeing where opportunities were. And that led to us starting smaller offices around the world, which then grew. And as we sort of grew that, we put in place processes that allowed us to work across the various offices.
And 24/7 is what you say.
That's, yes. Yeah. Because of the time zones, to a certain extent. Yeah. And what we did is, a lot of offices traditionally will have offices that work in the places where the offices are set up. But what we did is we found talent around the world and we would work on a project. So for example, this project, we probably had 3 different offices collaborating on Marco Polo.
Okay.
So we have our team in London, we have our visualization team in Budapest, we have a BIM specialist group in Lisbon, and we would all be collaborating on this project together.
Okay.
We also have some specialists in India. We've got sustainability specialists. So the team is kind of spread across various offices where we work on the cloud. Right, so we can work on a cloud-based server. So we all work off the same model in Revit or in BIM, and that allows us, because of the different time zones, to work sort of around the clock.
To pick up where someone left.
Yeah. So when London goes to sleep, our team in Tokyo is waking up. So what we can do is actually, when they finish up some work, our guys in Tokyo or in India will continue the work. And by the time our guys in London wake up, the work will be progressed. So we are able technically to deliver work quicker. But to answer your question again about quality and maintaining quality, I think it's about procedures.
And a design vision.
Yeah. So design vision, we approach every project sort of as a new design opportunity. We don't have a prescribed style. So we don't go with a kind of prescribed aesthetic solution that we apply to project. We kind of come with a fresh mind and try to understand, first of all, the location. Who are we building for? Who are we designing for? What is the climate? Where is it? Who is our target clientele? How do people live? If you're designing an apartment in India, it's going to be a completely different layout than if you're designing an apartment here in Cyprus. Or if you're designing an apartment in London or even in the States. People live differently. People like different layouts. People have different lifestyles, are looking for different things. So you have to understand the local market. You have to understand the local culture. You have to understand the local taste, the sensitivities. People have different tastes. And then we try to provide the best design solution for that specific project in its location. And I would say also climate is super important, and understanding sort of where you're designing and taking full advantage of that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Shall we move on to the next
Yes,
question?
sure. Let's do it.
Great. Let's do it. So let's talk about Alumil, the company.
Yes.
They place a strong emphasis on sustainability, as a lot of companies are doing now. So how do you balance bold design with practicality and sustainability?
Again, sustainability has become sort of an essential aspect of our profession as architects. It's no longer a choice. It's something that we have to embed into every process and every project that we do. And again, I think it's part of the process. So what we do and what we have found is that the best sustainable methodology when you design, and the thing where you get the most bang for your buck are the passive measures. And by passive measures is basically what you design into the project as a base. So for example, it can mean the orientation of the building, right? So you basically learn where you're designing. So for example, Marco Polo, where we're here today, it's in Cyprus. It faces the sea to the south. And you basically understand it gets very hot in the summer. The sun is very strong. It's a very sunny country. You get lots of sun.
Oh, yeah.
So the main energy cost that you have in a building in Cyprus is your air conditioning. And so what you want to do is you want to reduce the solar loads on your facade, on your windows, on your glass.
Yeah.
And so the way you do that is by designing a facade that inherently protects you from the sun, okay? And the way to do that in Cyprus is to understand where the sun is. So the sun rises in the east, so it's low in the morning in the east, and then slowly comes up, and in the midday it's high in the sky and comes down on the south side, and then sets in the west.
Okay.
So when the sun is high, the way to protect your facade is to create overhangs that basically shade you from the sun. So when you have balconies, you want to put your balconies on the south side. Just like here in Marco Polo, you have big balconies that automatically, when the sun is high, shades your facade on the south face.
Okay.
Okay? And that means that the sun doesn't hit your glass, right? Or you try to kind of have it hit the minimum amount of glass, because then the glass heats up, and then inside it gets hotter, and then you have your cooling loads, the air conditioning loads go up, which means that, you know, your operational carbon goes up. So what you have to do is you have to shade from the sun. So here we maximized our terraces towards the south, which is also the direction towards the sea, so it made perfect sense. You want your terraces overlooking the sea.
So this is why.
Yeah. So no, I'll even get to that. Why? But the most difficult sun to deal with is when the sun is low, because then the sun comes at you from the sides, right? And that's the case early in the morning, and that's the case late in the afternoon. So every building in Limassol or in Cyprus, the most problematic times are early morning and late afternoon.
I'd never thought of that. I would think the most problematic time would be at high noon.
No. And because it's very difficult, so when the sun is high, all you have to do is do an overhang, and then it protects your glass. When the sun is low, you have to actually, it gets much more difficult. You have to kind of really shade from the side, because the sun's coming at you from the side. So having an overhang doesn't protect you from the sun coming low. So what did we do here on Marco Polo is we actually reduced the amount of surface that we have on the side. So if you look at the building, it's a longer building that has a big face towards the south and the north, but the actual east and west faces of the building are low. And we actually put most of our structure on the east and the west face so that you have shading. So you don't have that many openings on the east and the west face of the building. So that inherently cuts down on the problematic sun, which you get in the morning and in the afternoon.
Wow.
So this is what I mean by passive, meaning that you don't have to add anything to the building. You don't have to add PVs, or you don't have to add something that generates. It's just the building does it by just how it's designed.
Okay.
Keeps out the sun. And there's lots of methodologies there. So the way we try to design for sustainable buildings, in the first instance, is by making the building perform as well as it can through passive measures. And that also means that it's not necessarily an added cost for the developer. They don't have to, you know, install super sustainable fixtures or extra things to make them sustainable, right? Passive measures. And to do that, you need to understand the climate. So at UHA, we have our own in-house sustainability department. We call them Habitera, and they run a lot of analytics on our projects to start with, so that we have the data. So we know things like, you know, the solar exposure. We know where the prevailing winds are, so we can take potential advantage of natural ventilation. We understand the climates, the humidity, rainfall, because different countries call for completely different solutions.
Of course.
You know, in some countries, natural ventilation works really well. In other countries that are really humid, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
And so there's different solutions that work in different places. So you have to understand those. Then you can obviously, once you've done your passive, you can try to add other sustainable elements to your building. So the great thing here in Cyprus is we try to add a lot of PVs, and you actually get PVs or photovoltaic panels that generate you know, electricity through the sun. So
does the Marco Polo have it?
So Marco Polo, if you go outside and you look at all the cabanas, the cabanas have photovoltaics on top of their roofs.
Wow.
Yeah. So we found instead of installing it on the building, you actually need a flat surface. So every cabana of the project has photovoltaics. So that's quite a large surface that generates energy for the building. So it's again, and our other projects here will also do that. So you find little things that you can do that will again optimize the building. Then you look at materials, and this is where the facade becomes very important. And specifically about, for example, Alumil that we work with on this project is looking at the specification, making sure that the glass has, you know, the right specification for the climate, that it has the right insulation properties, that it has the right coatings if you need them, especially if you have large surfaces of glass, that it has the right, you know, specification in terms of coating, in terms of reflectivity, in terms of visual aspect, and also in terms of its operation. Can people easily open the door to get natural ventilation? And here the climate allows for a lot of natural ventilation. You have a lot of indoor, outdoor living. So the facade systems that we need to specify, especially on this specific project, needed to be catered towards really being as open as possible.
Yes.
And the concept for this building, funnily enough, was we're right by the sea. And the client wanted this to be an incredibly luxurious product. So we thought to ourselves, what's the ultimate luxury when you're by the sea? And you know, you come to the conclusion it's a super yacht. You know, if you're sitting on the deck of your super yacht. So we said, what if your apartment was designed to kind of almost feel like you were sitting on the deck of a super yacht? So our client at the time, BBF, asked us, how can we optimize the apartments? How can we make the apartments, or how can we optimize the terraces, the outdoor living? And here in Cyprus, you get 25% of your internal area, you get as what they call a covered veranda, so covered terrace. But that's your limit, you can't get any more. So typically that limits the amount of balcony space that you can get. However, if you're open to the sky, like a roof terrace, that doesn't count towards that 25%. So what we tried to do was that on every floor, we basically set back every floor so you'd get a band of extra space that's open to the sky. So what that means is instead of getting 25% verandas or terraces like you get on most buildings here, we were able to give 35 or 40% on this building. So we're able to give much larger terraces to give that outdoor feeling.
Hence the design.
Yes, and by taking every floor and pushing it back, you end up getting a leaning building because every floor is pushed back. So we had to deal with the complexity of doing that.
And it does look like a yacht. A super yacht, in a way.
Yeah, it's a sort of maritime, where you have the kind of the curves and the kind of white lines of the deck with the white or the transparent glass balconies where you're overlooking the sea.
Edge.
So that was very much part of the original concept, that we wanted it to feel that way, to have that luxury feel of sitting on a boat and having the sea and listening to the waves crashing in and feeling incredibly exclusive. Also to ensure that you have the privacy, that you're not overlooked and that you're calm. The building here, we actually had to push it back on the side so that we wouldn't block any views for surrounding, neighbors. And so what that meant is we got quite close to the road at the back. So what we needed to do is have the back side of the building be quite closed off in order to insulate from the acoustic, from the noise of the street at the back. So we decided to put obviously our core at the back, but also put all our mechanical air conditioning equipment at the back and create these screens at the back that would sort of, screen you from the noise of the highway.
Wow.
So the front of the building became this kind of very unusual, kind of closed off, overhanging volume that's very dramatic. So it's funny, in our office, some people refer to it as the back, some refer to it as the front. Many people see it as the front because it's the first thing you experience from the road. So most people experience, but obviously we've opened it up completely towards the sea because you want to feel that connection to the sea when you live here.
Great.
So that's sort of was the kind of design ethos. But again, on sustainability, we try really to push our clients to do as much as possible. The interesting trend that we're seeing globally is that luxury is slowly starting to be associated with sustainable developments. People want to live in sustainable development. Living in sustainable development is considered a luxury. It's something that people are slowly being prepared to pay a little bit of a premium to be in a place that is sustainable, and therefore our clients are starting to be a lot more receptive to sustainable solutions and to spending a bit more money on making the designs and the buildings more sustainable. The other thing that's also happening, which is a great trend, is that the governments are starting to push for sustainable standards and are starting to offer the developers and the builders incentives to go sustainable. So this is the case here in Cyprus, where you will get extra building coefficient for providing a certain amount of PVs or making your building, a certain standard. So that's a very, very good thing. And that has a huge difference. So the biggest difference is kind of what happens at government level and the incentives that they put on the table or the restrictions that they put. So we all try to work with all of those and try to push as hard as we can. Some countries, are further progressed than others, but we have to, every little battle that we win is progress as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, great. Thank you. So you've talked about Marco Polo, and it's literally one of the most spectacular projects I've ever seen. I think they say it's one of the more spectacular projects of your firm. Your collaboration with Alumil. Selecting their advanced aluminum systems. Can you describe your experience of this collaboration with the company? Did Alumil Systems help bring your architectural visions for Marco Polo alive?
So the Alumil system came in for the open facades, the glass facades that basically open onto your covered decks. So they're essentially the transparent facade that connects you with the sea. So that's arguably the most important element of the building, in that what you are selling to your customer is seaside living and these incredible views out to the sea. So we needed to find a system that would offer you, amazing views. So highly transparent glass systems, easy to operate, systems that would allow you to seamlessly, open large panels of glass and slide them seamlessly to exit onto your terrace. Here in Cyprus, there's a lot of indoor-outdoor living. Your outdoor space, because of the climate, becomes an extension to your indoor apartment. It's such a pleasant climate here that, that barrier between your indoor space and your outdoor space is incredibly important. So you need to make sure that the system that you specify is, first of all, super functional, easy to use, easy to install, durable, offers, large areas of glass. We installed some really large panels here. Some of the terraces really, or a lot of the units have very wide panels, so you can open up the doors and really open yourself up. So we looked at a number of systems and eventually felt that that the Alumil system was really well suited for a variety of factors, both how they were built, their performance, and how competitive they were. So for the developer, they were an attractive product.
Okay.
It worked within our budget. So it was the best solution for us at the time, and clients and residents have been super happy with the system so far.
Perfect. So talk to me now about my final question.
Yeah.
How do you believe the new technologies and AI will shape the future of architecture?
Ooh, that's the $1 million question,
Yes.
Isn't it? Look, we are already integrating AI into a variety of our processes in our profession. Tools come up all the time. When I started my architectural career, when I first went to architecture school, people weren't really drawing on the computer yet. And then people started drafting on the... So when I first learned, we were drawing by hand. It was only until my third year that we started really drawing on the computer, and CAD programs became available. And then from CAD programs, it became 3D modeling, then it became parametric 3D modeling, and we can now model incredible things. And the profession has sort of changed. From CAD, it went to BIM-based products, where intelligent building information modeling. So the profession is sort of constantly evolving with new tools. And AI is sort of a turbocharged version of that tool. And we're starting to kind of incorporate that into a variety of aspects of our profession. For example, visualization is a really, really important aspect of what we do.
Yeah.
It's how we get our message across, or our design across to our clients. It's how our clients get our design across to their end clients.
The pretty drawings.
Yeah, the pretty drawings, but also the animations.
Yes.
We do a lot more immersive material right now, where you can digital animations of the work, 360 visualization, where you can put on a pair of goggles and you can walk through the space and look around, or you can really kind of immerse yourself in the building in different ways. There's lots of new technologies that are coming up. So that visualization aspect, we're already using a lot of AI.
Okay.
We're using AI to optimize certain images. So a lot of this, when we create animations, we have to create sometimes 60, 70, 80 renders for a second of animation.
Wow.
And that took historically a huge amount of processing. Now what we can do is we can render the drawings up to a certain level, and then we can run it through an AI optimizer, which makes it much easier. So you have to use much less processing power to do that. We also use it to animate certain aspects of our drawings. So for example, if we do a big gathering space where we have to put a lot of people into the image, we used to have to, laboriously put in models and assign models of every person and sit them in and assign, characteristics to that. Now you can just select an area and say populate with areas, and AI can start doing that. There's aspects of the writing, the description, where obviously we're using that. We're using a lot because I still sketch a lot, and a lot of the people that work with me sketch a lot. You can very quickly convert that sketch into images. They're not perfect yet, but we're starting to use that. There are certain tools within the documentation software that are starting to be AI generated, where AI can start helping you with the drafting. So it's slowly starting to have more and more impact on the various processes. Luckily for us is that architecture is very multifaceted. You deal with clients, you deal with consultants, you go out on construction sites, you deal with so it's not going to take over completely. We still have a few years.
My question.
We still have a few years. We still have a few years, and it's still quite tricky you can create pretty images very quickly. But controlling what those pretty images are, because they're pixel prediction based, becomes incredibly hard. But no doubt it's going to continue having a bigger and bigger impact as the technology evolves. I think we have recently looked at AIs that basically can learn from your drawing packages from past projects and it can be taught on those drawings and then can help you populate your future drawings based on your standards. We also certainly use AI for sort of legal documentation and processes and HR processes. So it's starting to sort of kind of infiltrate into the profession. But I have hopes that AI will be just another great tool that will allow us to do better things, more ambitious buildings, maybe be more competitive so we can be more experimental with the work, be more creative. That's my hope. So we'll see really where it takes us.
But you don't think it's going to make you obsolete?
Not in my generation, I think. Some people might think that. I think it's actually an opportunity for younger architects. I have a big team of architects that can help me. But for younger architects that are getting started up, I think having AI tools gives you a much better chance of producing some high quality work without having, you know, a team of visualizers, teams of technicians, teams of because you can start using those tools. So I think as those tools progress, it's gonna maybe level the playing field and allow us to think greater thoughts. You know, I'm quite positive about the impact of AI on our profession. Others less so, but I'm optimistic.
It'll certainly make it more efficient.
I think so. Certain aspects of it will, what I'm really looking forward to is how it will impact the construction industry. Because the construction industry is incredibly slow at adapting new technology. And that's a global phenomenon. So if you look at car manufacturing or a lot of different sort of manufacturing and production industries, they've been a lot quicker at implementing it. Architecture is still, construction is still people wearing hard hat and vests going out there and actually building it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the impacts that AI will have on the construction side and hopefully optimizing the construction site, making for higher quality delivered work, making it safer, making it healthier, and more sustainable, and really finding ways that we can deliver cheaper, better quality housing and projects around the world. That would be amazing.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.